If you've been looking for a church to attend or a ministry to get involved with, we have a very special program for you today. Hello and welcome to Ministry Connections. I am Evangelist Patrick Hoban, the local ministry director here at Salem and AM 980 The Mission. Each week on Ministry Connections, we spotlight a local church or ministry in the Twin Cities area to help you to get to know them a little bit better. Now, if you know of a church or ministry that you would like us to feature, just call the station or drop us an email at comments@salemtc.com. You can also follow us on our Facebook or YouTube pages. Just look for AM 980 The Mission, and we broadcast there as well. You can look at our podcasts on demand. Now, I'm excited to introduce to you my guest today. He is Andy Aplikowski of Human Life Alliance. Welcome to the program, Andy.
Thank you, Patrick.
Absolutely. You know, I read a little bit about your profile. You have a very interesting career, especially in the political area here in Minneapolis. But tell us a little bit about your personal background, where you're from. How did you get involved in this organization?
Yeah, sure. So I grew up in Arden Hills, Minnesota, just north of the Twin Cities. Went to Mounds View High School, University of Minnesota, Duluth for college. Been a lifelong Minnesotan. Fun fact, married in the Library of Congress to my wife, Rachel. But after college, I came back and started attending Precinct Caucus. And the first one I went to, I raised my hand, and the guy behind me nominated me for precinct chair. And then the next guy closed the nominations, and then I got elected. From there, I spent several years working or volunteering at a local party level. And then I worked my way up to the CD. I was on the state executive committee for a long time, ran for office myself. But then the last four election cycles, I either worked for the Republican Party of Minnesota or a statewide candidate running for office. So I really got very involved to see the inner side of how the political world really operates and the decisions that are made to cut and run on this issue or that issue. So once I had enough working at that level and that stressful thing, I took a break, and the position at Human Life Alliance opened up. And I was really excited to be able to come in there and bring my political experience to this 501c3 nonprofit where it's not political, but my experience and knowledge from the political world can help HLA be in a position that we can produce information and resources and education materials that can be used by everyone. We currently serve pregnancy centers and churches and religious groups and pro-life groups across the world. We're actually global. We've sent to all 7 continents, but giving us another avenue of helping the people that are making the decisions on policy, from campaigns to even the bureaucrats writing rules, giving them more facts and information about life-affirming choices to alter abortion or physician-assisted suicide, to have them make better decisions. Because I think one of the biggest things is that I found from coming from political over to the nonprofit side is most people just don't know. What you see on the news, most people think that's it. That's the whole story. But the reality is, when it comes to pro-life and end-of-life issues, they're not hearing the whole story. They're only hearing one side that's being well-funded by the other side, pushed through the corporate media to push the narrative and not the truth. So I'm excited to bring my passion and my work ethic to this organization to help grow the entire cause. So it's really exciting. So that's where I think I've always had a jack of all trades, really hard work ethic. So whenever everyone's always said no one's ever going to outwork you. So it's exciting to bring this to a new thing and actually bringing a fresh perspective. The pro-life movement's been fought for 50 years. For 50 years, we tried to get rid of Roe. And once we got the Dobbs decision, we got rid of Roe, there wasn't a plan. And I think right now there's a lot of great people that have been in and are still in the pro-life movement, but they're kind of stuck on the same game plan. So I think having a new set of new people coming into any movement, whether it's a business, an organization, or whatever, it's always good every once in a while to have a new set of eyes come in and see if there's another perspective. And I think we're doing some really exciting stuff with HLA right now that I think it's going to really pay off in the long run.
Beautiful. You are listening to Ministry Connections on AM 980 The Mission, where we give you a better look into a local ministry or church. And you can find us on Facebook or YouTube. Just look for AM 980 The Mission. My guest today is Andy Aplikowski of Human Life Alliance. and you can check them out at humanlife.org. Now, I know the pro-life movement because I come from Ireland, and they passed a pro-abortion bill not so long ago in Ireland. And what was interesting is people went out on the street, they interviewed people, and when they were confronted with the facts, they would never vote for such a thing. So how important is your organization helping people find those facts, Andy? Tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah, so one of our bread and butter things that we do is we produce publications. So that varies from fact cards that are used at sidewalk counselors to magazines that are distributed on college campuses, used in educational settings, schools, churches. And one of the, I'm coming into this, hearing some of the fantastic national groups. One of them just did a recent study comparing, of the 50 European countries, 46 of them have some sort of gestational limit on abortion. So there's only 4 European countries that have no age limit on when a pregnancy can be terminated. The United States doesn't have one. We have no federal law saying at some point the baby's viable, the mother's healthy, you got to carry to term. We don't have that. Of the, I think there's over 200 United Nations member nations, only 8 of them have no gestational limit, and the United States is one of them.
Wow.
I think that most people don't think that. We constantly hear the abortion proponents say, well, late-term abortions are really, really rare. Great, let's ban them. That would be an abortion ban if we said after viability, you can't terminate the baby unless it's the health of the mother, with the quotes.
I hear you. So only 8 countries in the UN have no term limits, as it were, no matter where they are. Gestational. Yep. Wow, that's amazing. That is good information.
Mm-hmm.
That's something I did not know.
Yeah. So, and why I think it's important is when we hear the proponents of abortion say, well, they just want to ban abortion. Well, that technically would be a ban. If we said that a late-term abortion should not be done except for the health and safety of the mother, that would be a national abortion ban. And most people will support that policy, but not if you call it a ban.
I hear you. So now I have a question for you. We know that we're not only in a political battle, and it's important that people know where people stand, especially on this issue. We're also in a spiritual battle because we just saw again another school shooting, this culture of death that has gripped the nation. And we see up in Canada, they're pushing euthanasia. We see now in Holland and these countries where if you have basically nearly like a migraine, you can, end your life. This is really a culture of death that's coming into the Western world. How much do you think this is important, especially when it comes to that culture? And is there a correlation between abortion, euthanasia, and then this careless attitude towards life when it comes to school shootings? Do you think that there's a relationship?
Yes, absolutely. They're on both ends of life, beginning and end of life. The other side, I don't think there's the same group pushing them, but it is the culture that they're both going to be happy if they push this through. They're trying to pass physician-assisted suicide in Minnesota. I actually testified against it earlier this year, earlier last year, or right before the session started. Sorry. But I think they're trying to make people think it's just a clump of cells, or they have no value anymore, or it's more dignified for us to put them out of their misery than it is for us to care for them and love them and support them.
So they're cheapening life. Years ago, if a dog was very sick, or he wasn't going to make it, or a horse or whatever it is, you would actually put them down. It's like as if people have more concern for their pet dog than they do have for an animal. It's like you're out there saving and I'm all for saving whales if you can, but it's like as if they're more valued than human life. Speak to that a little bit.
Yeah, when I was waiting to testify, so you sign up in advance and you kind of wait. There's kind of a lottery system, and you just basically wait all day till they call your name and you got to get up there. And it's no particular order. It's not pros and then cons, but just sitting in that room and hearing people that claim to be medical professionals and doctors get up and callously say that they just want to be able to end the life of their patient. At some point I felt that Satan was at work in that room. It was just this cold, dark feeling, and just overwhelmed me to the point of I was doing the right thing by being there
Wow.
and speaking out. And that's what's so scary is there's these, like, this social worker says it's her mission in life to be able to offer this to her patients.
That's her mission in life.
Yes.
Rather than trying to save a person, help a person through it, her mission in life is to offer this to people. How wicked is this? So, we're coming up to this election season. People think about the economy and people think about these things, but in my perspective, this is like probably the number one thing, because if you can't protect the most vulnerable in your life, either end of life where you're feeble, or you're in the womb and you have no voice, this to me is very important. How important it is for people, even if they think that their candidate hasn't got a chance, how important is it for them to go out and say, yes, I'm voting on this issue by voting for a candidate that is pro-life? How important is that, Andy?
I think it's really important because the other side, who is adamantly not pro-life and wants to make sure everyone knows that, is going to do everything you hate. And I think it's really bad in politics, and some people find it demoralizing to know this, but while Donald Trump has softened his stance on being pro-life, he also gave us the Supreme Court that overturned Roe versus Wade, and has put us in a position where we now can actually start to protect life in states. In the red states, we're seeing some fantastic laws, some of them not so well thought out, but you compare that to what's happened in Minnesota, and where every common sense safety regulation, inspection, reporting that was in place to protect mothers and babies, the Democrats erased. And I think the risk at doing nothing or staying home far outweighs the benefit of showing up and voting for that person who's going to be more pro-life than the opposition.
Especially in the State House
Yep.
and the Senate. This is really, really important. Now, I have one question for you. We're coming to a close here, but, I was thinking about this subject, and we always talk about the mother because there's lifelong consequences to that. Of course, the baby that has a right to life. But I often think about the fathers that don't have a say, or the grandparents that are denied a grandchild. And it's like as if that's never brought into the equation. In your publications, do you speak to anything like that? Or?
Yeah, we have a lot of information. We have a fact card for men's for sidewalk counseling. Quite often, it's a mix of whether or not the father is coercing the woman to have an abortion, or the woman is not willing to carry the baby for the husband or for the father. So we do have information in our publications at humanlife.org for both ends of that. One of the things is we're going to be bringing in more information, how to support those people who know a woman facing an unexpected pregnancy to help guide her in the right way. Because I think that is some of the stuff that's missing is we have people that are used to working outside of a Planned Parenthood or an abortion facility across the country that are dealing with that right there. But I think there's a room for that network around that woman before she gets there, for people to give her better information and more love and support to help her know that there's options besides abortion.
And they can find all of that ministry. You mentioned the website one time.
Humanlife.org.
Humanlife.org. If you're a church or an organization that needs some publication, contact them. They will be able to help you. Now, you have been listening to Ministry Connections. You can hear Ministry Connections each week on Mondays, Wednesdays, and Fridays at 1:30 p.m. and also on demand on our Facebook page and X. Just look for AM 980 The Mission, or go to our website, am980themission.com/ministry-connections. Thank you for listening, and tune in again next week.